Depth with Larry Flick on SiriusXM.
Okay, so here's the thing. My show is radio in the purest sense of the word. So, I sit here in a t-shirt, my socks. I haven't put on shoes in my apartment to work in 6 months. But poor Chris Colfer it's a very, very dramatic scene going on in your home today, isn't it?
It's very well. I mean, it wouldn't be hilarious if I said this is just my house. That nothing changed. that actually would track. Actually,
you have to please describe some of the background because I'm gonna keep to my word to not release video from our interview, but you have to please describe it because it's a thing of beauty.
Well, there is a naked man to my right. He only wearing a witch hat and glasses. It also a skeleton. I should mention. Also a skeleton. I have a big I have a big poster of my new book. That looks like it's on fire because I got a light from a local Halloween store. That's
I know it's really good. It's good.
A lot of twinkling lights and jack-o'-lanterns.
I know it looks very festive there.
Thank you. My hands are covered in burns and scrapes from putting it all together. So I'm glad it turned out.
Bless you. Chris Colfer is, of course, an award-winning actor and a New York Times bestselling author. He has written 16 overall books. 16. And the crowning achievement in this literary outburst of creativity is the ongoing Land of Stories series, and we're on prequel number 2 of the series, and this one is called A Tale of Witchcraft, and I'm still working my way through it. I made a pretty good dent, though. I've had it for a few days, and dyslexia is what it is. So I read slower than most people, but I'm having a great time. I've grown very fond of Bristol.
Oh, good.
The main character, I've grown very, very fond of her, and so it is for no matter what age you are. I mean, obviously these are books intended for younger people, but even to an old man like me, having Bristol Evergreen on pages in front of me is like a visit from a good friend. So,
that is the sweetest way to describe her.
I can't even imagine what it's like to live with her.
Oh my gosh, it's wonderful. She's a great kid. Yeah, I think she represents the positivity and the aspirations in all of us. So she's a good force to live with.
How much? I think I've asked you this before, so forgive me if I don't remember the answer. But how much mapping do you do of all the books? Like where you're headed with all of this, right? So how much of all of this is kind of preordained?
I'd say about 80% is preordained. I am very lucky because the story kind of gets downloaded into my head like a movie trailer, and then I try to string the images together as best I can with words. That's how I come up with ideas and plots. But I always pretty much know where the story is headed or where it's going. I usually, before I start a book, I do a very detailed outline. But as I write, that outline changes so much. And by the time I get done with it, I've thrown out plot points, I've thrown out chapters, or I've combined characters or combined situations. So I'm never faithful to my original outline.
Do you find that you're a little more mercenary an editor now with all these books under your belt?
I'm a much better writer, I'd say. 16th book is the charm. So that's been even I've noticed it. And I'm sure my readers have. So that, I think that's the biggest change really is I've grown so much as a writer, and sometimes I'll look back at my old books and I'll feel a little embarrassed, even though they're very popular and people love them. I'll be a little embarrassed about a sentence here or there. But I think it was kind of I think it was I was a first time writer, and my books were a lot of first time readers' first books. So I think there's kind of an interesting, very cool relationship there.
I don't know if I will agree that you're a better writer as much as I think that you are a more confident writer.
Oh, thank you.
As someone who has read all of your books, because I think we've talked about each one of them as they've come out.
We have also, yes, we have.
We've done all 16 books. And it's one of my favorite things to do. It honestly is. So when I started reading A Tale of Witchcraft, I started to think, what's different about this book other than the obvious, the plot points and all the, the evolution that you'll get from the characters. And the thing that kept jumping out at me is confidence. If you've been reading all of these books closely, and you do have a very passionate legion of readers, that's the part that's going to show itself more. There's a much more authoritarian kind of tone to your writing. Yeah. And when I say that, I mean it's like you're not waiting for someone to say this sucks. You know it's good.
Yeah.
When do you get to that point of your life as a writer where you stop worrying about that?
It's interesting. I feel like, I think my journey as a writer is interesting because I started off as a teen star on a television show, and so the beginning of my writing career was I think full of unnecessary criticism, because people were just taking a crack at the young actor who decided he was an author. But as time went on, I feel like people really started, and the people who actually read the books and the following that the books got, and the fact that this Land Story series kind of became like cocaine for children in some families. I think I started getting a little bit more street cred as an author. So I think right now I'm in a really, really wonderful, like I'm in like a plateau. Is that the right word? I have enough readers and book sales to be really, really happy and excited. So I'm just kind of waiting maybe for that other, for people. Maybe I might be getting too popular and people will start hating me again. I don't know. I feel like it's a slippery slope.
It is a slippery slope, but I think it has more to do with the fact that the people who were taking shots had not actually cracked open a book.
Right.
And I think they just thought, here is another celebrity writing a book aimed at young people. Because let's be honest, one of my closest friends is a children's literary author and editor. And he battles the daily war to get writers heard when there are so many, TV stars writing children's books, thinking it's only a few syllables per page, and I can do that, and I can go on with you, and it's all fun. This is a completely different experience, but I think you initially got lumped in with those people.
I did,
and I think that once people actually saw that you were resonating with your audience, and that there were actual words on the page, not just a lot of pictures, they had to go back and read, and then they kind of eat their own words. But there is something that I was thinking about also this morning before we started chatting. When you become as important as someone like you does to an audience of readers, there's a pressure to behave a certain way in your own life. Mm-hmm. And we've seen other people whom we're not going to discuss come under fire for things they've said and they've done and all of that. How do you deal with the pressure coming to you to be a certain kind of man to your audience?
I think nothing is more important to me than that. Truly, I've had so many people that I look up to and admire disappoint me, and it is just a soul crushing experience that I never ever want to cause anyone to feel that because of something I do or say. So being a role model to so many young people is it's the most important job I will ever have. So I try to take it as seriously as I can, and I'm in this for the long run. Like I hope I gain as great and vast of an audience as possible. But it can be tough sometimes, especially being a gay man in this world, because there's a lot of pop cultural stuff. There's a lot of there's a lot of adult sense of humor type stuff that comes with being a gay man that I can't publicly participate in, because I know I have a batch of 10-year-olds that are looking up to me at all times. And I think there's always, unfortunately, that group of people who are waiting for someone like me to slip up so they can demonize me, and they can say, "Ha ha! See, we told you. How could you let your kids read his books? Look at them." So I don't know. I always have that in the back of my head. So I try to just behave the best I can.
That's got to be really exhausting, Chris.
It is pretty exhausting. Yeah.
It's got to be exhausting. How do you feel on the days when you just do not want to think about that? How do you?
I mean, I think, I think it's luckily it's something you don't really need to think about, which is nice. It's not the most pressing issue in the world, but I think it's just learning when and where to participate in it, and when not to, and the majority of it is online, and you can always just turn off your phone if you get overwhelmed.
Do you ever feel pressured to make Bristol or any of the people in your books queer conscious?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, and one of the characters actually is gay. We have not established that yet. He was the and I've said this before. This isn't a surprise, but the character of Xanthus is gay. He the books are also about 11, 12, 13-year-olds. So that takes the pressure off that too, because I know I certainly had no idea who I was when I was 11, 12, and 13. So that kind of relieves some of that pressure. But yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, you have to do it. And some people disagree with me on this, but my books sell in places that it's not okay to be gay. Very, very oppressive countries where even if just the word gay is written in your book will automatically be banned from every single library. So you have to be very strategic about representation. And so in A Tale of Magic, at least, I try to throw in as many hints as I possibly could, so that if any young LGBT child in those places, in those oppressive places, were reading that book, they would know they could identify with Xanthus. So hopefully that worked, and hopefully that got his story into those areas.
But the thing that I get in all of your books, and I'm getting it very strongly in A Tale of Witchcraft, is that there's room for all kinds of people in Bristol's tribe of friends when they're kind of taking battle against a witch or a threat to the world or something like that. There's this whole thing that happens with Lucy getting pulled in to something. It's less about identity and more about acceptance. It seems that what they're really battling is for the freedom to be as they see fit. And then you as a reader, or as the parent of a reader, can then fill in the spaces as is appropriate depending on how old your kid is. I mean, I always think, Chris, and I would love to hear your thoughts about this, you have a certain responsibility, but you're not a surrogate parent, nor should you be expected to be. but yet there are times and there are people who want you to be. How do you handle that part of it?
I'd rather be the cool gay uncle than you know how everyone's always saying like Tom Hanks is America's dad. I would like to be the cool gay uncle, who has a martini in the corner. But I don't know. I love, I think what I love about the Tale of Magic series in particular is how many difficult conversations it's allowed parents to have with their kids. It's really been the icebreaker for a lot of topics that they, or so they've written to me. It's been the icebreaker for a lot of topics and conversations they didn't know how to have with their kids. But many of them said, well, the oppression that the fairies and witches are experiencing, that's what gay people and Black people and minorities are going through in this country. And what the people in power are doing is the same thing what people are doing in power in our world today. So I hope with this series I can continue to bridge those gaps for parents.
How many more of these books are there?
I think I'm going to do. I know I'm going to do one more. So it'll be a trilogy for a while. I think I'm going to take a little time off from the fantasy genre and either write other genres or work on some other projects.
What other genres are intriguing to you?
I really, because it's my favorite type of book to read. I really love like murder, paranormal mysteries. So I would really love to write an adult something or other. So I'd love to write that. It's a little nerve wracking because adults are much harsher critics than children are when it comes to writing. So I'll just have to get over that.
See, I'm going to disagree with you on that too, because children will say this sucks, whereas an adult will say it's nice.
Yeah.
Kids are an unflinching audience. I think.
Yeah. Kids definitely have no filter. That's for sure.
They don't care. They don't care. So how much of that idea have you fleshed out? If you mentioned it, that means you have at least a character in mind.
Oh, I have the whole thing fleshed out. It's just a matter of when I want to do it and how I want to do it and who I want to do it with, and also like should I just go straight to a screenplay with this, or should I write the book first, or it just how do I birth this baby?
Well, that's exciting. Have you written the third book in this trilogy?
Not yet, no. So that'll be my project for I think this fall and upcoming winter. That'll be what I'm doing.
How are you finding creativity during this period? Some people are really hitting mental roadblocks because of the uncertainty of times, and other people are finding that they're flourishing in ways they never have previously. Where do you land on that continuum?
Yeah. I wrote the fifth Land of Stories book right after the death of my mother, and that was probably the hardest barrel to leap over that I creatively ever had to. So everything is easier compared to that. But it's interesting because I was finishing this book right as the pandemic hit, and those final two chapters took a whole month for me to get out because I was so scared like everyone else. So I really hope the world is in a better place come November, because that'll be regardless of what happens in the world, it'll be very influential on how the third book goes.
Well, this book is so perfectly timed because I think people, particularly young people, are very open to it. I think some of the fear has subsided, and yet they still have more time to read than they normally would. So this is right on time. Congratulations on another great job. I'm really savoring every page myself. So good on you. Good on you. Chris Colfer is the author of A Tale of Witchcraft. It is it's pretty darn good. I would tell my adult friends to read it as well if you enjoy fantasy. It's not just for kids. It's actually really smart, not too sophisticated, so that your child will get into it, but you're going to feel like you're getting some brain nourishment as well. So please do check it out. I'm Larry Flick, and this is Sirius XM.